To our viewers and listeners, welcome. This debate is presented by City Club of Corvallis and the Corvallis Advocate. City Club of Corvallis is a volunteer-run, nonprofit organization that seeks to present a diversity of viewpoints and constructive dialogue. The Corvallis Advocate offers fresh, daily, hyperlocal news for Corvallis, town halls and debates, and an extensive weekly events calendar. I'm Steve Schultz of the Corvallis Advocate, and co-moderating with me is Helen Higgins, an active community volunteer and previous City Club board member. For this debate, we have Karen Jean Kanan and Tony Cadena, both running for Ward 9 City Council of Corvallis. Helen.
All right, good evening. So our first question will be, if you could please introduce yourself and tell us what your primary reason is for Tony seeking re-election. We'll start with you. You have 1 minute.
Okay, I grew up in San Jose, California. I'm the son of immigrant parents. My mother came from Mexico. My father is the son of immigrant parents. He was born in El Paso, Texas. I have had the privilege of having parents who, even though they had very little education, really valued education. So I was able to go to college. I'm the third of four children and the first to get a bachelor's degree and the only one to get a master's degree. I worked for Hewlett Packard for 25 years in finance and operations. After I left HP, I worked locally here as a CFO for View Plus Technologies. And then I taught for 12 years at Willamette University in their business school. I'm running because I have a lot of experience. I've had a lot of experience in the nonprofit world, and I'm just trying to help the city make good decisions that are sound and actually achieve the outcomes that we hope to attain. And that's, I'd like to continue serving the Ward 9 and the city.
Great, thank you, Tony. So Karen Jean, same question. Why are you running?
Thank you. And I just want to thank the Advocate and City Club and Tony for being here. I really appreciate Corvallis' civic mindedness and just the service of everyone that's involved and cares about these campaigns, as well as the day-to-day services. So I'm a mom. I've been a working class person most of my life, if not all, depending on how you define that. I'm currently a learning center secretary and writing assistant at LBCC, but I've also worked as a cashier at Osborne Aquatic Center. I've worked food service at the hospital. I've worked at the farmers market, and I worked for over 20 years as a church musician. In 2022, I got my bachelor's degree in music after going back to school. And then I went back to LBCC and they haven't been able to get rid of me. I am a renter. I am an ecologist. During the pandemic, I got interested in doing fiber arts with local plants, basketry. I'm a community volunteer. I've been volunteering since I was 15, started out at First Alternative Co-op, where my brother was also volunteering, and I got also involved in social justice at that time, as well as environmentalism, which have been enduring interests of mine. I'm running because I prioritize strong systems and community structures. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's your minute. Thank you. All right, on to the next question. So we are going to move into housing, which is on the forefront of the minds and concerns of many residents. What ideas would you bring forward to address housing inventory? So you have 1.5 minutes, and we'll start with Karen Jean.
Okay, thank you for asking about housing. It's certainly very important. It's certainly been very helpful to me. I am a low-income renter myself, and having stable housing is huge. It allows you to pursue the other things and not always be worrying. And I know we have many renters in Corvallis who are spending more than 50% of their income on rent, and that is really tough. And so it is a very important issue. I do want to say that city councilors, my understanding is they set policy, but they also are very partnered with city staff. They are also can refer to experts from, especially from city staff as their right hand. There's also a lot of community experts in Corvallis. And so far as specific policy decisions, what I'm doing right now, what I've done especially since deciding to run, as well as, my whole life, but I've really hit the books since deciding to run. And of course, should I be elected, will continue to do so. Just learn all the time. And I will rely on experts as far as how we make it possible for everyone to afford housing and to be able to live peacefully in Corvallis.
All right, thank you. Tony, your question.
Okay, well, I think I'll start off by saying that the city has done a lot to make improvements in our ability to develop housing, but we certainly have more to do. We have streamlined the code. We have implemented middle housing or infill housing, updated our code to allow commercial mixed use, which is retail and housing. And we have 400 plus affordable housing units that just opened recently in Southtown and more on the way. That's all great. But we do need to address housing and affordable housing and housing that is attainable by a variety of folks and all manner of housing. So not just single family homes, but apartments and townhomes, et cetera. And in short, what we need to do to make that more affordable is to build a lot more housing. And so I think that what we need to do is streamline the development process, which for many developers is not just about the cost, but also about the certainty and time frame in which it takes to get approvals. We should look at proactive land annexation and potentially at proactive infrastructure build out. I think these are all things which could enable us to move more quickly in the ability to develop housing because we need about 5,000 more units in the near term.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. What are your views on how we are addressing homelessness in Corvallis? Specifically, what do you believe would be best practices for our community going forward? We'll start with Tony. You have a minute and a half.
Well, I would say that homelessness is a multifaceted problem. I just spoke about housing, and affordable housing is one part of the solution, but there are many parts of the solution that have to do with mental health and substance abuse issues. Um, so housing is definitely a big factor. The city has, in working with partners, has made good progress in having an increasing percentage of folks that are homeless being able to take advantage of shelter and other activities. We've invested in transitional housing for folks. We make significant we fund nearly $500,000 in social services to a variety of agencies that assist in this arena. But we need more. We need funding at the state and federal level. This is something that's critically important, and we need to work more closely, although we are working closely with the county, the Hope Board, Community Services Consortium, and service providers, and the Coordinated Homeless Response Team. But we do need to continue to make more progress there.
Thank you. Karen Jean, your question.
Okay. Boy, so this is an issue that is really important to a lot of folks. Homeless people are very in our face, and that issue is very in our face. And as I've talked about, I'm a low-income person, and so the idea of being without a home is not alien to me. I'm familiar with what that could feel like, even though I've never actually been homeless. So it's a very important issue. There are some solutions that we see our community. This is something I'm proud of our community churches having taken action on. So we do see community churches like First Methodist, like Wills Hills, having built the small really quite small. I'm spacing on the word for it right now. Anyway, but a place that someone can have to call their own. I really, like I say, that makes me feel good to see our community stepping forward in that way. I don't think that it's the end solution, but I really like seeing the proactiveness there. There are other ideas like the rolling moratorium is an idea of having those that are still camping be in a specific park for 3 months and then a specific different park, and the first park would get cleaned up, and there would not be like the idea of an unexpected sweep. So there'd be some, once again, not a permanent solution, but a movement more towards stability. I'm really interested in solutions that provide agency to homeless people. So I'm curious to learn more. And I followed a bit of the Marvin's Garden situation in Albany. I'm sorry that with the Supreme Court ruling that sweeps could come back, that they just did in both Albany and Corvallis. I think we need to really consider what the best way is to solve this problem and talk to the multiple experts here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So as a follow-up, I'd like to ask you each to share your views of the sweeps. You have 30 seconds, and Karen Jean, will start with you and then over to Tony.
The sweeps are more violent than we might think. I used to think like, oh, it's probably just like moving, you know, which we all know is stressful. It's considered one of the most stressful things Americans face. But it is really losing all your belongings, and the sweeps themselves are harmful, like that having to be pushed, having to recreate your area. And so that's why I am opposed to unexpected sweeps, and I'm in favor of having areas where people are able to camp.
Great, thank you. Tony, your question. Sorry, I was muted. Tony, your question.
Okay, sorry about that. We have tried unmanaged housing, and that has not really worked well. This is a tough one. We have to care for our environment, parks, and natural areas. And unfortunately, the city does not have a lot of land outside of parks. I think the best solution would be if we can find a partner and a location. That would be the best to try to move towards more managed camping. Some cities that have been able to find nonprofit partners have been able to make progress there.
All right, thank you both. All right, let's move to the topic of local business. So some of our downtown business owners are updating their buildings, and a new hotel, retail, and apartment complex is on the horizon. So if presented with the opportunity to support an urban renewal district, would you? If so, why? If not, why not? We'll start with Tony. You have 1 minute.
Well, this came up at council meeting last night, and I definitely am a very strong supporter of at least taking the first step of doing a tax increment financing feasibility study to be able to provide for an urban renewal district for downtown. I think that the downtown area is really speaks to the character of a city, and I think that we all would like to have a vibrant downtown. That is one of the things that I've pushed for in as we go through our strategic priority setting. So I'm very much in favor of a tax increment financing district. I think obviously doing that well would be to invest in the right level of public and infrastructure projects that would attract multiples of that in private investment so that we can really help our businesses downtown thrive, both the existing businesses and ones that are new to our community.
Great, thank you. Karen Jean, your response.
Thank you. I care about this question a lot. So can you tell me it again so I can?
Yeah, so basically, would you support an urban renewal district, yes or no, to support basically the development of the downtown?
Okay. So urban renewal, my understanding is that that's another word for it is declaring downtown to be a depressed district. And I do not consider downtown to be a depressed district. I consider it to be thriving, which part of that is to continue to strengthen and support those businesses are there, attract other businesses that serve our community while retaining the walkability, bikeability, busability. There is some really neat stuff going on downtown with the mixed use residences as well of all income levels. My concern with this hotel is that and I'm always open to, but if it's high income residents, if it's seeking high income, if it's bringing in private money and then saying they get to decide the character of our downtown and the land use and whatnot. I've heard that it would displace the artisans market, that there is an idea of it extending also to take out riverfront trees.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next question, a financially sustainable community includes a robust business community. So what can we do to attract more businesses or industries to Corvallis in total? You have 1 minute. We'll start with Karen Jean.
Yes, great question. So the first thing to do here is to talk to the businesses themselves, to talk to, for example, like we were just talking about, downtown businesses as well as businesses in other parts of Corvallis that make the other neighborhoods in Corvallis also really friendly and accessible, so that not everyone's having to drive a long ways to stores and services. And so I think that is the first piece as a city councilor, and of course talking to staff and experts in the community, which in this case would be those business owners, to see how can we support you? What makes you thrive? What's working? What's not working? And one of the things that I would do differently from my opponent is when a business that's doing fine, like the Marriott has plenty of parking, that they want to take out some perfectly good storefronts for 8 parking spaces, I would vote no, because I would rather look at, let's get some good businesses into those storefronts, keep our land use policy of providing, prioritizing the storefronts over the parking lots, unless we've carefully chosen how to have them, because of course parking is very important as well.
Great, thank you. Tony, your question.
Okay, yes, I think several things I would do to attract and help both our existing business and attract new businesses. We do have a new economic development director, and we are working on a regional basis on economic development. A lot of what could help the downtown area is a business registry, and really reaching out to those businesses to determine what their needs are. More broadly speaking, though, I think we need to have a plan for again, purposeful land acquisition for industrial land, potentially build out of infrastructure to make development more quicker to happen. I think we need to look at proactive infrastructure placement, and really tax increment financing, as we talked about for the downtown area. Most industrial businesses that want to come to town, for them, time is more critical than cost. And I think we need to speed the process.
Great, thank you. All right, let's move in and talk about city infrastructure. So the city has a really lengthy list of both public work projects and facility maintenance and repair. And the delayed maintenance has shown up in burst water pipes and office spaces that are outdated and cramped. So what process would you use to prioritize funding for projects? And do you have an opinion as to what is most critical to put at the top of the list for action? So you'll have 1.5 minutes, and we'll start with Tony.
Okay, well, I think on the public works, infrastructure, pipes, et cetera, this is something the council's been working on for over a year, and I'm happy that we are talking about it. I think at a minimum, what I would prioritize is first is important for us to understand the condition of all of our infrastructure, and I think, well, the city has done a good job of detailing that out. We have master plans, capital improvement plans, a variety of tools that tell us what the needs are, and those are prioritized. It's up to us as a council then to be able to plan for how would we fund those. And we have been working on that, and I've been a strong proponent of putting in place something that would last ideally beyond this current council, but into future councils. I know we can't obligate future councils to work on that, but that's something that I would definitely do. On the facilities side, we have done a facilities assessment, and our buildings are constrained in space, outmoded, energy inefficient, unsafe, not really collaborative, inaccessible, and not really suited to modern needs. And so for there, I think we really need to prioritize those and make an investment so that we attract, develop, retain, and optimize work for the workforce that we do have.
Great, thank you. Karen Jean, your response.
Okay, I was hoping to piggyback on Tony, and he was going to tell me how these things are funded, but he didn't. So I don't know. I have not been a city councilor. I do not know. I'm just going to be honest. As far as, do we want burst water pipes in our buildings? No, we absolutely do not. I'm a very practical person. I'm very, I just, like I say, I just talk to people and learn and figure out how things are done and how we need to take care of our infrastructure, and then I advocate to have it happen. I'm not someone who's shy to say this is what needs to happen. I'm not looking to, just rubber stamp things. I'm looking to understand things, rely on the experts, and definitely take care of our important infrastructure.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. So the city's been exploring the building of a new civic campus that would replace the current city hall, the council meeting chambers, the municipal court, and possibly the police station. So what's your view of the necessity for new facilities, and how would you approach getting them paid for? So you have 1 minute, and Karen Jean will start with you.
So the civic campus is a bulk word that I was watching previous tapes of the debates that you guys have been doing. And at some point, either live just now or taped, I saw you, Helen, describing, what the civic campus is. I've been going to the city council meetings and learning about it. It is helpful, I think, to cross out when you are dealing with things like burst water pipes and stuff, to go, okay, maybe a 7-story hotel is not actually part of our city government buildings. So I would take that off of the agenda as far as what my opinion was, right? And obviously we're working with a city council of 9 people, we're working with staff, we're working with the community. So I'm not gonna pretend that I'm able to decide, nor should I be, but that would be my opinion, is that would not be a priority over the situations of city buildings that actually need to be maintained.
Thank you. Tony, your response.
Okay, just to clarify, the hotel has nothing to do with the civic campus, just FYI. I do think if having toured all of the buildings that we're talking about, the police department, city hall, et cetera, there is a strong need for modernization of those buildings. As I mentioned, the buildings are in very poor condition. I think I have always said I'm open to all the possibilities. The Community Engagement Task Force provided their report, which indicates that there's a strong preference by the community to have it located downtown. And I think that I would certainly support that. But I'm open to any possibilities. We are still early in the process. We have an opportunity based on prior work for the Madison Avenue corridor to look at a campus, which would include police station, city hall, municipal court, et cetera. And I think that is something we still need to consider.
Great, thank you. All right, we're coming into the final question for this round, and this one is on water bill fees. This is a topic of conversation with residents who've seen the service fees continue to increase on their water bills. How would you balance the need for the city to generate revenue with the impact of increasing the cost of living for homeowners and renters? So you'll have 1.5 minutes for this, and Tony, will start with you.
Okay, well, first, one of the things I always like to say is it's not the water bill, it's the city services bill. So yes, water is a part of it. We, like many cities, do collect city service fees through this. Compared to many other cities, our costs are relatively modest, meaning we're in the lower third compared to many other comparator cities. And why do we have these fees on the water bill? It's because we have very significant non-property tax paying entities in the city. And those would be, of course, the university, the county, Good Samaritan, et cetera. So we do collect fees to be able to fund the most basic of services. I think it's important that we do that. I think at the same time, I'm very sensitive to the cost that it imposes upon our residents. We do have a low income assistance program. I've been a strong supporter of that. We should and will continue to evaluate whether that meets the needs. And I think we also really should look to budget prioritization. These are basic needs that we're talking about. We should look at the rest of the budget and see where we might be able to make choices, because we need to focus on what the community needs, what the community wants, and what it's willing to pay for.
Great, thank you. Karen Jean, your question.
Okay, so I have a couple concerns with this. I definitely do not want the service bill to be regressive and charge someone the same once again, if I was in charge, which is not the case, like city councilors are a group of 9, of course, but my opinion on that is that it does not seem good for our community to be charging folks the same amount, no matter how much people are using, and therefore able to pay. Someone who has a larger house and multiple bathrooms is able to pay for that water usage versus someone who just has one bathroom. So that's one thing. Another concern that I have when we're talking about money is that the new parks building that was confirmed, actually I have 2 more concerns. The new parks building that was confirmed, my recollection is $34 million. Bonds are being taken out because we do not actually have that money, is my understanding. That seems to me a situation where it would be important to say, is there a less expensive way of making sure that the parks building is in good repair and also in keeping with our community? So we're a small community, so we're not going to have buildings that look the same way as a really large community. The third thing that I think is really important when we're looking at these issues is access to staff. And I was very disappointed at yesterday's city council meeting to see when a couple of councilors brought up concerns with the new policy that said that they would be limited to only one term meeting, one meeting with staff per term, one ward meeting. And my opponent, Mr. Cadena, actually was really insisting on that. And to me, I want access to staff for community and council.
Great, thank you. All right, so that concludes our question set. We're going to now move into the lightning round with Steve Schultz.
Thanks, Helen. And for this round, essentially, I might give you a time, but it's only a guidance. I will, the moment I think that you have given the voter the answer that they want, that they need, so that they can make up their mind about their ballot, I'm going to go ahead and move on. If you need to interrupt me because you had a second point, go ahead and do that. I want to actually follow up on some of what was said in the first round. Karen Jean, am I understanding correctly that you are not for an urban renewal district in downtown, in that you view it as already a thriving enterprise down there? Just yes or no?
I'm sorry, I don't think it's just a yes or no question.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Okay. I love our downtown. I think we can always strengthen it. I would want to know more before I would say that I would be in favor of the urban renewal. Right now, I'm thinking I'm not in favor of that. I do not think it would benefit the downtown.
Okay, and then Tony Cadena, your response to Karen Jean.
Yes, I just think that the term urban renewal has that's why we refer to it now as a tax increment financing district, because the old terminology led folks to think that we were dealing with terrible situations. Our downtown is not terrible, but it does need revitalization.
Okay, and then Tony, I'm going to start with you on this one. We've talked about the facilities. In rough terms, would you be willing to decouple what is envisioned as a package of facilities for the civic center? Would you be willing to decouple? Maybe you get the police station done first and other pieces of it done second, like that? Yes or no? Maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Yes, I've said that we should look at each of the components of the facilities that are required.
Okay, that kind of
Yep.
confirms what the voter needs. Thanks, Mr. Cadena. And Karen Jean, same question.
I think you're asking whether we could separate the projects.
Yep,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, good. And then the other piece of it is the city attorney contract. Currently, we now have a city attorney that bills us hourly. The prior billed us as retainer. Obviously, hourly has become far more expensive. At this point, city councilors have real limitations as to their contact with that city attorney. We as press have not needed to reach out to him yet, but we don't know how that will turn out, when the prior one would always speak to us. And then there is also just the fact that it's a lot more money. Would you be, once this contract is up in a year or two, and I'll start with you, Karen Jean, would you be open to looking at the city hiring its own personnel as city attorney, much like what the county does in other cities across the state. Yes, no, in 30 or 45 seconds if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, I think definitely looking at least at something like the retainer model we had before would be preferable to the current model.
Okay, and then Mr. Cadena.
I'll just say that I think finding a firm to do a retainer model is pretty hard to do. In answer to the question, I certainly would be willing to entertain any possibilities, but right now we do have the benefit of the services of a company that has a lot of expertise in a number of areas, and it's hard to find that in a single individual.
Tony, I'll start with you on this next question. Do you believe the pursuit of the Ellis matter has been a good use of the city's time and resources? About 30 seconds, please.
I'll answer that with no, yes, and maybe. No, I think it's been, this whole thing could have been avoided, and I'll leave it at that. Yes, from that, I think that we have a fiduciary responsibility to respond and defend a lawsuit when the city is being sued. And the maybe is that if we reach greater clarity and around roles and responsibilities, and perhaps pursue alternate dispute resolution, then perhaps this is a good outcome that could come from this.
I guess to pursue this and put a finer point on it, if it had been up to you, would the matter have been pursued in the first place?
I can't really speak to that. I think that the matter is still in litigation, and I've been advised that
Okay, I'll move on to
best not
Karen
to go.
Jean. Thanks, Tony. I'll move on over to Karen Jean.
Yes, my understanding is that it's the city council's responsibility to set policy, that includes directing that the boards and staff and departments of the city are fully staffed. And I think that the trying to oust a counselor for requesting that a board be fully staffed is retaliative, and I do not agree with it.
Thanks, Karen Jean. I'll move over to you for the first answer on the next one, which is about Republic Services. What can the city of Corvallis do to work with Benton County to ensure that Republic Services is a responsible, ethical partner and steward? I'm going to give you about 30, 45 seconds on that, Karen Jean.
I care a lot about this. I got a lot more knowledge of this issue after deciding to run and going to the landfill 101. And I do believe it's one of the big issues facing our city right now. I believe that the city residents are part of the county. The city, my understanding is a city council can write letters to the county, can recommend things, can advocate for citizens, and just in general, work together to make sure our best interests are being protected.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Response, Republic Services.
Yes, I think we do work with the county and express our concerns about the issues surrounding the landfill. We can certainly be more vocal about that for sure. I'm also happy that we will no longer be accepting leachate from the landfill.
Okay, and then I'll be starting with you, Tony, on this next one, which has to do with noise ordinances. Specifically, a while back, a member of the public came to front of the council with a complaint a month or two back about an AC compressor had been placed outside of her window by a next door neighbor. This thing's going day or night. It is apparently at a decibel level. It is impacting the livability of her home. And there are no ordinances on the book. There is no ordinance as to a threshold for decibels. There's no permitting and confirmation process and inspection process of any kind. And question is, would you be open to considering this kind of update of city code? Tony,
Uh, short
30
short
seconds.
answer is short answer is yes, I would be open to that, and I'll be talking to the community development director about this.
Okay, and in your thinking about it, what would your priorities be?
I have to learn more about it before I can say
Okay,
exactly where it
great.
falls.
And then Karen Jean, about 30 seconds.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else to say on the subject?
Well, I think it's important to, it's interesting. It was the first time that I saw every single counselor really, be interested, which I was glad to see. I think they should have been. I would love to see it on other issues as well. And I would, as an elected city council, I would learn what the process is, whether that's something where you ask at the next city council meeting how that's coming along. It sounds like you can meet um, with directors privately, but I would want to not only be doing the work of following up, but really making sure that was publicly known that I was doing the work of following up.
Okay, Karen Jean, I'll start with you on the next question, which has to do with the idea of priorities in terms of the city's needs for dealing with bursting pipes and apparently not enough office space, police station that has flooding issues, and the like. We've also got quite a bit of a homeless problem. Questioner wants to know, uh, given those circumstances, should we really be spending money on facilities like the Majestic Theater or Osborne Aquatic? 30 to 45 seconds, Karen Jean.
Okay. I honestly thought you were going to say the questioner is wondering if we should be spending money on facilities if they do not actually need to be rebuilt, or like co-investing with the hotel situation. Osborne Aquatic Center is a really, really big community resource, and so is the Majestic Theater. I don't have numbers in front of me. I'm going on I'm just going to say I don't think it's the same numbers of millions that we're talking. And with the civic campus, and my understanding from pretty astute community leaders is that the civic campus plans are overbuilt for our community. So I definitely think it's very important to prioritize appropriate spending of money that, so to speak, gets the biggest bang for your buck.
Okay, and then you kind of veered a little bit in a couple of directions away from the original question. So I'm going to let Tony go ahead and respond to your answer and along with specifically Osborne and Majestic. Tony, 30, 45
Okay, and
seconds.
if you could repeat the question for me, Steve, because I'm
The
trying to
question is
sort out the
this.
pieces.
That's okay. It's fine. Given the city's infrastructure needs, flooding police station, and bursting pipes and all the other stuff that we've talked about this evening, should we be spending money on recreative facilities like Osborne and the Majestic? And then, of course, if you want to respond to Karen Jean's answer as well. 30 or 45 seconds, Tony.
Okay, well, I think this is always a challenge for us. When we talk about buildings, we're talking about capital improvement. These are buildings that should last 50 plus years. It's hard to make a trade-off between that and operational items. But that is something. It's like being in a house which has a leaking roof, et cetera. At some point you need to address the leaking roof at the same time that you're dealing with your ongoing living activities. I've also been a strong proponent, though, of budget prioritization. I will say that Osborne is a community resource and a good for the community. Having kids learn how to swim is a social good that is important for the city residents as well as for the school district. So I think both things are important. And we just need to talk through those in priority and be as prudent as we can.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, moving right along, and Tony, I'm going to start with you on this one. Several months ago, Optum took over Corvallis Clinic. The impact of that, and papers on record saying this, the impact of that is something we believe that the city will come to rue one day, and that, frankly, it will probably impact the well-being and livability of our community going forward. That said, the city council has no direct authority to do anything about any of it. However, issues like this will arise from time to time where livability and well-being will be impacted by decisions other people are making that are outside the city council scope. In the instance of Optum, what kind of thing would you perhaps suggest that you might do to advocate and assist the community to a better outcome than what we've seen with Corvallis Clinic? Tony, about 35, 45 seconds, somewhere in there.
Okay. Well, I think obviously communicating with the regulators that were in charge of approving that acquisition is probably the first place that I would start. At the same time, I also know that um, talking to folks at the clinic that they were in a situation where even though perhaps Optum might not be the most desirable outcome, the alternative was to basically close down the clinic because they were facing such significant financial difficulties. Healthcare funding is a giant issue in this country. We have either very large um, organizations that do healthcare and or very specialized, and so it's really hard
I think the
for
questioner
smaller
more
ones to
has in
survive.
mind what would you do to see what might be done to have a different outcome for this community, not the overall issue.
Okay, yeah, I'm not really sure what the city council could do that would have ensured a different outcome.
Okay, Karen Jean.
Okay, so the big picture that you're talking about is when the city council does not have direct authority over something, what can they do to help? And I think that definitely that is a place where having the title of city councilor, everyone knows, what that is, and I think has a lot of respect for that, which is a cool thing. And so, like it sounds like Mr. Kaneda did, you can go and talk to the involved parties, see if there's anything, connections you can make, ideas. Formally, letters could be written, but I also think there's informal connections, and using the resources that you have access to, the staff. You can ask a question, I'm just curious if you have any advice about this.
You're
Okay,
muted, Steve.
we're gonna move to closing statements. And really a two-part question for closing statements. What would your priorities be as a city councilor, part one? And then part two, what differentiates you from your opponent? So what differentiates you and what will your priorities be? We're going to go ahead and I believe we started with Tony. So we'll end the debate starting with Karen Jean Kanan. 60 seconds, Karen Jean.
Okay, and thank you again, you guys, for having me. So basically, I'm going to return to that question because I thought it was very interesting about the Aquatic Center and the Majestic Theater, and then also how you have pipes bursting and those issues as well. And I appreciated, I think this is an area where I feel the same as Tony's answer of they're both very important. And why I say that is because the community livability and thrivability is as equally important as you can't have a pipe bursting over there, but you also want to be enjoying life. And so I think that when you have those types of situations where you say they're both really important, is you sit down, you have those conversations with the community, you say this is what the costs are, this is the funding, and these are both priorities. If the community was to say we don't think that's a priority, and we do on this, then that would be another thing. But my priority would be that we could do both and then have those conversations. I think we're a practical community where people are willing to go, okay, you're right, we do need these both. And also, of course, advertise those services so that people know they can take advantage of the pool.
Okay, and moving to you, Tony Kadena, your priorities if you were reelected and what differentiates you from your opponent. About 60 seconds, please.
Okay, I think that issues such as lack of affordable housing and underinvestment in infrastructure are symptoms of what I think is our top priority, which is to be good stewards and ensure the long-term financial sustainability of the city, both its financial and its physical assets. So that's a top priority for me, and I think we're making progress in that realm, but there's more work to do. My second top, and there's a lot that goes into that, housing, et cetera. My second priority is excellence in governance. Um, what distinguishes me is I have a depth of experience in private industry, small and large, nonprofit, education, and obviously having been a city councilor. I believe everything. Conversation is how we achieve progress. Reach out to folks who disagree with me, and that's been a hallmark of my time. I've reached out to my opponent many times, and she has yet to respond to getting together. So I'm still happy to talk with everyone and learn and make the best decisions I possibly can.
Tony Kadena and Karen Jean Kanan, both running for Corvallis City Council, Ward 9. Thank you. Helen Higgins, thank you for co-moderating this evening. Also thanking staff, volunteers, subscribers, donors, and sponsors that make these debates possible. The Advocate plans to issue their endorsements on Friday, October 25. City Club makes no endorsements concerning candidates or issues and focuses only on presenting constructive dialogue for the community. Hopefully, this evening is an example of that. And to you, the viewer, we appreciate your interest in the upcoming election, and we remind you that ballots need to either be postmarked or dropped by November 5.